All right. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm David Holder, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton. We have a very cool subject for today. I'm pretty excited about this one, but before I introduce what that subject's going to be, Warren, do you have some shout-outs that we need to do? And we're going to take care of a little bit of housekeeping duties here. Don't start. I already had to take a ball from him. I'll take the nickel from you, too.
It was a nickel you took from me, or you tried to take.
I took the baseball the other day, too.
Yeah, he did. He took it away from you like Dan.
Yeah, because you play with it like a little kid.
I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want.
Act like one.
All right, I'm going to give the YouTube people some love this week because last week I gave the Spotify people some love. So Hunter Stir 1045 says, "How does this podcast not have more subscribers?"
You the man.
Agreed.
So go tell all your buddies.
Sub it up, if you would. If you're not subbed, sub it up. Brian Sheffield 7037, great podcast again. I never get tired of hearing your topics. Learn something new every time.
It's your Tractor Supply guy, Dad.
I heard that. I recognize that because we were just talking about him.
I think he just got some sense too.
He did.
Did he?
Be like Brian.
I don't know why you made me ship them. But anyway.
Oh, that reminds me. Someone's coming by.
We should take him to Tractor Supply for him.
I might have to.
We have a guy coming by tomorrow at 4.
Wait,
pick up some
actually,
sense.
I have the record, though, of delivery.
I dropped him off at the post office already for his.
You're so lame. I drove all the way to freaking Wyoming for a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, now try to make it sound. He tries to make it sound like he just went there.
Like
did. He wasn't going there already.
Yeah, he just happened to be going
I
through
still
the
had
town.
just
the insight.
We got a call. Here we go. Jimmy John's.
We have 17 different trucks sitting at the Raised Hunting location waiting to send our orders out.
Yeah.
We are the next Amazon
literally
delivery.
Next day delivery. Nick, could you close that curtain? It's distracting me. The _
Raise cents,
Chase,
grab a bucket.
810. You just interrupted his name. The Chase 810. Great podcast once again. I just listened to the Rub Tree episode. I'm in Michigan and on a really big buck this year. Very excited to see if a rub tree is a visual cue to draw this dominant buck to a certain spot instead of skirting me all the freaking time. Awesome, brother. I hope you smoke him. Make sure you put some buck junkie on that thing. B&B custom game calls. Maybe a day late, but glad I get to kick back and watch another one. Love them. Keep it up. After the wind podcast, I reevaluated my setup. With the wind completely horrible in the tree, I've set up 3 different ground setups and playing the thermals.
He's a man.
Awesome. Yeah,
He's
we're not
on it.
because we're a day late.
Day late and a dollar short.
That's why we're filming this one on a Thursday, so this one will be on time. Deerus, Deerrus. So I think I'm saying that right. I've never been good at locating bucks during hunting season, despite owning a farm with lots of bucks. Sometimes I even find sheds of bucks I've never even seen on camera. Amazing animals and definitely challenging to pin down. I would honestly trade you because I can never find sheds of deer I don't know. Jin Sinov 2174, best hunting podcast out. Y'all easy to listen to and full of good knowledge. Most all the other info is mostly South and East info because everyone says the Midwest is easy. LOL. Glad to listen to guys I can relate my hunting to living in northern Missouri, running y'all's Nocks and scents this year. Appreciate you, brother. Eric Obards 1209, not to be confused with Eric 007. I don't know if he's on here this week. We're going to have to give him some crap. Great podcast and topic, guys. I like the new segment of What Would You Do? Keep them coming. Einstein teached you. I just broadcasted in Beans today, and it poured. Nice.
Oh, you lucky turd.
Yeah.
Oh.
Send a little. We need to rub his head or something because we sure could use a little bit of rain on our food plots right now.
Got so hammered with rain.
I think you're going to have a hard time finding Einstein's head.
Well,
Adam Dabdowd. As someone who didn't grow up hunting and taught myself in college, I'm really excited about today's topic. I've been tracking a herd for a few years. I stumbled upon car camping. I've tracked their movements over the years. They would pass through a field into residential, into private, in a circle over a few days. There was only a few bedding areas in this path of travel, set up, and boom. Sweet.
Car camping, that's a new one.
Jake DeLee. He says, good topic today, guys. When I'm starting on these rubs. When am I starting on these rubs, though? I've got 3 locations. I want to try them out, but I don't know when to start. You want to answer that real fast?
Not yet.
September, probably.
As soon as you want to have the rubs in right as soon as they come out of
Month,
velvet.
one-word answer so I can finish. September? That would be September, right? Yep, September. Jeremy Rupsick.
You're an
In my
ass.
opinion, there is no such thing as nocturnal deer. As stated in your video, you are just in an area they are not walking in all in the daylight at the time. Agreed, Jeremy. Warren, I'm still a fan of your wacky facts. Keep them coming. Somebody with some appreciation. Little button man. Einstein teached you again, says, where does everyone buy their lithium batteries? So expensive. We do not have that in our store. However,
We may start.
do have Raised Scents and Raised Nocks and now Raised Canine.
Hey,
And
Raised-
where can you get it?
RaisedHoney.com. That is www.raisedhoney.com. And if you didn't get it the first time, how about the third? RaisedHunting.com.
And where was that?
RaisedHoney.com.
Boom.
Thank you. Great job. Way to join in and participate with the family.
Whatever.
Okay, we're ready.
All right. You got anything you need to go over today? No stories or anything like that yet? Perfect. All right. So today, and this kind of goes on to what some of the guys have said, sounds like everyone is just like us. You're starting to get, it's like where the itch starts coming. The deer are starting to look full grown. Everyone starts thinking toward deer season. So today we're going to talk about deer management. Only we're going to talk about it in a way, is it worth doing? Is it because we've done it? And we're going to talk about what we've encountered while doing it, some of the pros and cons. But there's lots of questions that come up with this. And so I think that, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of people out there that are preaching it. But there's some fallbacks or some drawbacks to doing deer management as well. So I want to start the topic off today. So basically, let's start right there. What when we're talking about deer management, what are we talking about?
I think it depends on the characteristics of what you're looking for.
Well, I agree. I think there's different deer management.
Well, just a disclaimer here, too. I'm going to have a lot of opinion on this without fact being based behind it because
That's 99% of our podcast.
Yeah, but some of it can be fact, or you can go research it. I'm going to just go off of like
what we've done, what we've seen, what we've had happen.
But I think you'd have to ask, what are you looking for? More bucks in general? You're looking for
More
growing
deer,
the
better
biggest
deer.
just a healthy herd, what you're trying to do for management. I think your typical management is what you're looking for, big deer.
That's
like when somebody says I want to manage my farm or something. Typically, I would say
probably 99% of the time they're managing for quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
Well, I think real quick too, should we, or is there a separation between land management and deer management?
I think there is.
I definitely think there is.
Okay, so let's define what we're saying deer management is then.
So deer management, I think we're managing, and for today's argument or today's discussion topic, I think that we're talking specifically about trying to grow a bigger deer. We want to kill the biggest buck that our land can produce. Okay, I think when we're talking about land management, then we're talking about taking a chunk of ground and we're saying, okay, we're going to put some kind of agriculture on it, or we're take the agriculture off, we're hinge cutting it, we're clear cutting it, we're putting in CRP, we're doing things that that get the most out of the land itself. We might put in a waterway, we might be able to get a new pond put in, whatever is going to help everything encompassed in that. And I would say that is not our goal here. I mean, that is a goal for some people, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying the average hunter out there doesn't have the means to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is the difference. I mean, what can we do to make the land the best it is? Now, however, there is some crossover because I have one of the things that I think we'll talk about, we'll get to it in a little bit, is food, because there's three things you got to have a white-tailed deer or any wild animal. Basically, you got to have food, water, and shelter. That's it. If you have that, they can live. So what of those three things are going to benefit the most to what we're trying to accomplish? Water, I don't know that there's a whole lot you can do. You can add some water, but
if I was a deer, food
would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you're watching, look at Warren's gut.
But but food is one that we can manipulate. But can we manipulate it to the extent of where it's really going to have that much of an effect on our antler size?
We need to go back to your original topic though, of deer management.
Yep.
So what are you defining deer management as?
Like I said, I think today, for what we want to talk about, deer management is, we are the guy, let's just assume for this discussion, that you're trying to grow the biggest deer you possibly can, the biggest buck that you can possibly grow.
Okay.
That's
so
the goal. Not quantity, not
just the biggest deer you can find.
Yes.
Or you can grow. Okay, and then where does this apply to?
And I think we clarified that what we may be talking about when we talk in numbers or inches of a deer, remember, we live in Iowa. We live in possibly one of the best places, if not the best place to grow the biggest type of whitetail deer.
Consistently.
Yeah, we would take that same application and say we could do that in Virginia or North Carolina or Kansas or Wisconsin, and we might not get the exact same size deer. We're
It's
still
a different scale.
Yes.
Yeah, just put it into your terms. You know that if in your area 130-inch deer is in the top 5%.
There you
For
go.
us, that might be a 170-inch deer.
Yep. All right. So the first question is, now that we've defined what deer management is, the first question is, does it work? I mean, and you said perfectly that it's going to be your opinion. You've been here since we moved here. And once we moved to Iowa is the first time that I can say I truly was trying to manage deer. I've been whitetail deer hunting now for 46 years. So since I killed my first deer when I was 10, I'm 56 now. So for 46 years, I would say that I started, like most people, what I wouldn't necessarily call managing deer. I just simply went up the ranks where I was hunting public land, or my uncle's private land in Arkansas was the first time I ever passed a deer and said, okay, I don't want to shoot that deer. I'm going to let him grow, and I'm hoping I can kill a better deer. And then when we moved to Montana, I had the opportunity to make that go a little further, where I could actually see some pretty good deer. It was hard. Like passing 110 or 115, 120 inch kind of deer was like, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I made myself do that, knowing I was hunting what I would call semi-public land. It was block management stuff, so I knew they still had a chance of getting killed. However, it wasn't a whole lot of people hunting it. So there was a good chance, too, if I let them go, I might see that deer the next year.
Okay.
So
what really goes in when the more I'm starting to think about this, I don't know that we actually truly manage deer.
I think it's just
I think
a
we
general
pass
term.
deer. That's about it. Meaning that we try to.
I don't. No, I guess I agree and I disagree with you. We are trying to manage, but we do not have the ability to have a huge impact on the deer.
Does anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
going to be
way?
one.
I would say, something that we contradict ourselves here with is, if you've heard some of the things that we talk about, would be, we're not going to be, just because we've had a TV show in the past or have the following that we do, a lot of people just automatically think that we own tons and tons and tons and tons of land.
Thousands of acres.
Yeah, which isn't the case.
Right.
And so one of the things we've always focused on is making sure we have different pieces of land in different places, so that when you have one farm that's struggling or something, or the deer population is down or whatever happens, you have other options to go to still. And so I think that with a situation like ours, we can pass a deer, pass multiple deer, whatever, to let them grow a little bit longer. And that could be a form of management. But I think that, for instance, I guess I could speak for it, but the juries, they have a great representation they have a significant chunk of land and areas that they can directly impact that herd more so than just like a few of the herd or something on a smaller piece of land. So in their situation, or in a place where, say, you own maybe 1,000 acres consecutive, in that situation, I think that I could set up the land properly and be able to take the time to genuinely affect and manage those deer in a beneficial light, as opposed to smaller land.
So what all do you think is affecting them, though? Because really is all I'm hearing still. Like, let's just say I know nothing about hunting, and you wanted to give me 3 actionable things that I could do to manage deer, what would you tell me that I can do?
I would be looking for the health of the deer, is probably number one, and this is just me answering off the top of my head. But you're asking, like, what are some things that you could directly correlate to it? For the situation of, if I have that 1,000 acres, there might be a couple places in there where I am hammering during important times of the year all kinds of food and nutrition for them, putting it in there for them, whether that's bags of food or protein and grain and all kinds of different things.
Or agriculture.
I would have agriculture there, but I'm saying your things that, like some of these different products that are out there that they claim helps antler growth, helps this, that, or the other, whatever. I would find some of those things that have the good ingredients. I've never been a fan of them because in all reality, the majority of us, if I go put a bag of stuff out, protein or whatever out for the deer, I'm really not doing anything besides giving them a good snack. Now, if I had the ability to, and I knew that when I pass this deer, there's like a 90% chance that unless he dies from natural causes, he's going to live because I have enough land in this area, I would take the time and the money to put as much food and stuff in there to times like the spring and the summer when fawns are on the ground, when they're growing antlers and things like that, to specifically try to get them as much protein and as much vitamins and everything that they would need that they don't find as easy naturally to help the herd as a whole grow. So that would be like one thing right there that I would totally do, is hammer in all kinds of food in certain spots, because I know that it would be worth it, that I'm not just going to do this, have it work, and have a big deer that can walk across the neighbor and get hammered right away.
I think you asked for 3. I think I have 4 that it's going to take.
Okay.
And what I would say to that is, I agree with everything Easton's saying. The only thing I disagree with is I don't think 1,000 acres is big enough. And it depends on how that 1,000 acre lies as well. But I think it has to be more like 3,000 or 4,000, maybe even 5,000 acres in order for a management practice to work effectively. Because now we have to have the core of our deer not leave, so that we can actually have we can reap the benefits of what we're doing. And so the first one that I would tell someone is, you're going to have to, this is not about killing just mature deer. This is about killing deer, which we have a neighbor that does have 1,000 acres, and he does that.
Meaning mostly does.
Lots of does, and bucks that are not trophy deer, but lesser antlered deer or young deer that don't look like they're going to be something. I think that, so those are 2 that's one, is the being able to take the correct deer. And I think the only way to really do that is to get a biologist involved and him be able to help you sort out and say, here's what you need to be looking, here's what we're looking at. It looks like your deer are healthy in this way or that way. And so Texas, they do some extensive stuff like that where it's fenced to a degree that it's still big, but they can tell you that they definitely have an effect on them. And I'm not for fenced hunting. To me, that's not hunting. But I am saying that their results of their studies would be better than anywhere else because
it's a
controlled. So one is how many deer you kill. Number 2 is how much ground. You've got to have a lot of ground. The other way of going about that is, when you can't afford to own all that ground, is forming something with your neighbors so that you have and it's been done across the country in different places where quality deer management used to really push it. I don't know how well they are doing it anymore, but they would have town meetings, and you would come in there, and then different ranchers, farmers, whatever would say, okay, I'm willing to do this too. And all of a sudden you get 5 neighbors that all agree, we're going to try to do this. And man, the East Coast is probably a place where they've seen the most significant positive side of quality deer management, not for the company, but I'm saying their quality of deer has enhanced. Pennsylvania being probably number 1 that I know of, because I remember back when they weren't go ahead.
Well, so if you just take what you just said,
yep.
Why would you need 5,000 or 6,000 acres?
Well, you don't if you have other people working with you.
Well, why? Why do you need 5,000 or 6,000 acres or other people?
Because otherwise the deer go, someone else, you let deer go and someone else shoots them, and then your management practices aren't going to work.
Right. So I think really there's only one thing of this, a whole thing that we could state that actually works, would be that the deer has to be able to live to a certain age.
Age is the number one factor that we can control.
Yeah, and then we have actually like any kind of information on how much of a difference that's going to make. Right. Everybody knows that a deer that is 2 years old is not going to be his biggest. He's going to be his biggest at least probably 4 or older, where food, I would assume food has to have a huge difference on what it does with deer, because that's probably why we have such bigger deer than everywhere else in the country.
I've read some studies that say that it's number one.
The only thing that always throws me off with that is Canadian deer. That makes me feel somewhat like it's more about subspecies of deer than it is really about the food. Because those deer, there's no way they're getting the best food.
I can't answer that. I'm just telling you what they've studied. I mean, when they take a deal in, the one I read was about Texas, and they took 2 different farms, fed one farm, didn't feed the other, saw a significant difference. It was all in the same region. They went down and tested soil and everything, and they had deer numbers that were almost identical. They harvested the same kind of deer and stuff like that, and it was night and day. Their biggest contributing factor to the size of antlers came from the food. They were able to say that. So anyhow, so that would be my third one, is food. Is that you would have to be able to, and I'm not talking about food plots. That's not going to be enough. It can help, but it's not going to be enough. It's going to be having to control the agriculture in the area, like you said. When it's a harsh winter, we're leaving food for them. When it's a mild winter, maybe we don't have to leave as much for them, but having a diverse situation so that they have everything that they can benefit from, that would be the 3 things that they have to have, so, and then the fourth one is cover, and making sure that there is enough area for these deer to be able to bed, and going in and cleaning up or making it thicker or clearing out certain timber and stuff like that. So I think there's 4 factors, and I would agree with you. When you really start looking at it, we don't have the capability. I would say 90% of the hunters do not have the ability to impact the deer enough to truly manage their deer. I mean, and because I would tell you say the only thing we're doing is passing deer. I disagree with you on that, because we shoot a number of does. Do I shoot enough does? No.
Do we? Yeah, but I would say the only argument I would make with that is that we don't shoot does just to try to kill bigger bucks. We shoot does because we want
the deer herd to be healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which also helps
contribute.
Your
Right.
bucks.
Yeah.
And then too, I try to get other people to come in, and we try to shoot some of those bucks that we want to get rid of and stuff like that. Or I shoot them myself now. That we get a Brahma. Brahma's was never gonna be anything bigger than he was, but he was mature. Let's kill that deer. And I don't want to jump ahead, because that was what kind of prompted this whole podcast was, I've had a couple people ask me the question, 2 different people in a week, I don't know why, ask me this question: which is better to shoot an older deer that is not got a big rack, or a younger deer that doesn't appear to have a big rack? Which one would you be better at? Which one would be the better one to take if you were managing your deer?
Older, for sure.
See, I disagree.
You also shot a spike.
Yeah, but okay, explain why you say older.
Because for a fact, honestly, this isn't even a question. For a fact, 110% that deer is not going to get any bigger.
Right.
There's no possible potential.
Yep.
A younger deer, he may not look like he's going to be a giant, but there is a chance. So we're saying there is opportunity that he could grow and turn into a big deer, and the other one there is 0. So that means there's only one option.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, come on.
I was going to say old, but mine's fit because of my thought process is 50-50. I have no way to know for a young deer, no matter what he looks like, whether he looks like an older buck that was a crap buck or what. I have no way of knowing what he's going to turn into without letting him grow
and see what he turns into.
Exactly.
Well, and I'm going to disagree with you guys respectfully, because I understand that you feel like you have more. Yours is a guarantee. Mine is not. However, I do feel like I've watched enough deer that there's a buck I filmed just the other night, that real wide 8, real thin. 2 years ago, I saw that deer. He walked into a food plot at my house, and I was like, that deer's never going to be much bigger than what he is right there, because he's thin. And he doesn't have the character. And it seems like when they don't have the mass, they never add the mass. It's just, and he has typical tine length. Yeah, he could grow something long. You're going to say, oh, you've been wrong on this one or that one. my point is that I think that you can, and I do think that they've been doing it and have proven that it works in areas that you kill those younger deer, because those younger deer are doing some breeding where the older deer are not having as much of an impact. The only reason that you're killing them is to stop them from competing for food. So
Juice.
what about Juice? I thought didn't have any clue that he was 2.
You also said he had no potential.
No, I had no idea. He was 2 years old. Swoops has never done anything that
He's a 160-inch deer.
he's not. I hope we kill that deer, because I'm going to show you that deer is not over 150.
What?
He's not over 150.
Not over
Dude.
150?
He might be 152.
Maybe when he
like
broke half his beam, he wasn't over 150.
No, he's not a big deer.
This
By
is
Iowa standards, he's
is,
not a big deer.
I think we need to be discussing denial. That's what we need to be
not
talking
denial.
about. Yeah.
What I'm looking for is if I'm managing deer in Iowa where we live, I'm managing for the 170-inch mark.
Okay, but let's just think back to some of the younger deer that we've had. You're going to tell me that there's not been any young deer that we all thought that's going to be our term for it is typically shit buck, which we shouldn't use, because then it convinces my wife that deer can't be shot by her. So, non-optimal bucks is what we'll go with. That there's not been any of those that we thought at 2 or 3 that deer's a non-optimal buck, and then all of a sudden at 3 or 4 or 5 we were like, holy shit.
I mean, I don't know. See, 2 years old, I do not.
Juice is absolutely an example of that. He was not anything like when you looked at him at 2. He wasn't. I mean, he was a nice young 8-point, but he wasn't like that thing's going to be a world-class 8.
Right, but I also would have guessed Juice at that time as 3. I was off on my when I'm looking at him at that time. I thought he was a 3-year-old deer. He was already big. And so I 100% I was wrong. I have no problem with admitting that I was wrong.
But so if you didn't shoot him, then you would be okay. Because there was other old deer that you could have shot instead.
You mean when he was 2?
Why, I guess is what I'm saying, is why take the risk on a 170-inch 8
and
if I don't have to?
Because I guess now what I'm saying is we're talking 6 or 7 years of more experience from when you're talking about when he almost shot Juice. That I feel like now I can look at that deer that was in the field the other night. That deer is never going to be any bigger than.
How old do you think that deer is?
That deer's, well, I think he was 2 the year he walked into the food plot, so that would make him 4 this year.
He wasn't 2 the year he walked in the food plot.
He wasn't.
He was 22 inches wide and 130-some-inch 8.
Okay, so he was 3.
Which would make him how old?
5.
Okay.
But my
so,
point,
yes, you can make that deeming on that deer because of that age.
But my point is I knew it at 3. I could now look at that deer and say at 3 years old, he was not going to be because he didn't have any of the characteristics to allow him to get to that.
I bet he's 4.
I think we make an agreement. Yeah, because we've also proved that we suck at aging deer.
I think we've gotten a lot better.
No.
Did you look at our last report card?
Yeah.
BG's the only one we got.
No, I don't think that I guess.
I thought your deer was, I thought he was on the downhill. He was 4.
Right.
I also thought his deer was old, which you guys agreed. His was 4.
But see, okay, here's a perfect example. If my deer was 4, that's a perfect deer to get out of there. Because at 4 years old in Iowa, where we live,
yes, I agree.
We should have been looking at.
The problem is the anomaly, which is what a 170-inch deer is an anomaly. They're not normal. So now you're just doing anything. All I would say is anything on your direct property, you do that.
Watch
on
out.
everything else, that needs to be a collective decision before you go and smack 2 and 3-year-olds.
Okay.
Is that a deal?
Well, we have one
Sounds
right
good.
now.
Which one?
Wampy is a great example buck. And he is a definition of what do you do to manage him. Because
Kill him.
Yeah, that's what you think. But in my opinion, so to give you guys reference, when did you first see Wampy? When he was 2?
I think he was 3.
So we have the assumption that this deer is 5. Because we've known him for over 3 years now, I think.
This will be the 3rd, yeah.
3rd year, yeah. And last year, he's probably 160 something.
Right at it.
Right at
Yeah.
160.
He's He
He's a
looks
nice
like he has
deer.
a freaking potential like no other.
But he was probably
We passed that
150-inch
deer.
3-year-old.
Yeah. Or
He was a
2-year-old.
big 3-year-old. Yeah.
And so we passed that deer many, many times, thinking that this would be the year he would blow up. Well, we've gotten him on camera now, and granted he has time to grow still, but I don't think he's going to be doing anything like more than like 5 or 6 inches from last year,
If he wasn't bigger last year.
Exactly. And so the situation with this one is you're assuming he's 5 based on age. Based on our report cards, I would say he's probably more likely 4. And with that being said, you shoot him now because he took a year where he didn't grow, and you don't know what he ends up turning into. And turn around, and I think that it kind of depends on what your opinion is on age caliber, because I think that when these deer go a year plateauing, that's either their cap, as in they're going to go the next year and they're probably going to be the same thing again, or they're going to start going downhill or something at some point, or they take that plateau year and then the following year they freaking blow up. And I think with this deer specifically,
At 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think with Wampy specifically, you pass him because he's not a small deer by any means. He's definitely not a management deer, going off the fact of his size, and he has grown until this year that we don't know yet. And you have a potential that he could go next year, 5 or 6 years. He's a homebody deer. He doesn't go pretty much anywhere, so we know he's safe. And he has potential to go the following year, and you get a test basically of, okay, now we think he's 6. Did he stick it out or not? And if he doesn't, then you have a baseline there at least of 1 that you can sit there and look at.
Now let's look at the flip side of that. If you would leave that deer alone, okay, he's a mature deer, okay, and there's a 3-year-old out there that is 145, 150 some inch deer that has potential. He's got 5 points on either side. He's got good eye guards. He's got good mass. He's got good G4s. That seems to be, eye guards and G4s seem to make or break our deer out here, and mass. Okay, and this deer has the potential.
And tines.
No, those 3 things seem to be, we don't have a problem with getting width.
Joking.
We don't have to, I mean.
It's like my golf game.
Okay.
I need to fix the short range, the long range, and the mid range. It's everything.
So my point is, so you got a deer like that, and you're going to run the risk that Wampy runs him off and gets him out of there because he's only 3. He's looking, now this deer wants to breed. He wants to be in there, but he can't. So Wampy is there, and Wampy whoops his ass one time, runs him off. He goes to another farm and gets shot. And so that's where my argument is that you make room for the ones that are coming because that you definitely know, you feel like, BG is a perfect example. You could look at him when he was 2 years old and go, this deer has potential. We still don't know. He could have petered out. But what he did from 2 to 3 and then from 3 to 4 was what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
You know, and
he also made such a huge jump from 2 to 3 that we knew that he wasn't
normal.
He's not a genetic normal deer. Yeah. So let's just take your exact same example, though. Let's just say that BG doesn't run that deer off. Or not BG, Wampy. What do you think that 3-year-old's odds are of making it?
Well, that depends on what farm we're hunting.
Just that place.
50-50 at best.
Used to, I'd have said it's like 70%, maybe.
Yeah, but
now
right
I'd say it's more like 30 to 40.
Yeah, there's more hunting pressure around there, it seems like.
Okay, what do you think Wampy's chance of making it is?
His is higher because I think he's figured it out. I think he's in the 60 to 70%.
Okay.
He's on the other side of the 50.
So if you know you have a 160-inch deer, which I think all 3 of us would be happy with a 160-inch deer, and then you have a 130-inch 3-year-old that you don't know what is going to do with a 30% chance of survival or 40% chance of survival, and a 160-inch deer with a 70% chance of survival that could, or 160-inch deer that could tack on 10 inches in 1 year, which one is the better odds game?
You mean which one you shoot or
which one you banking on? Getting to that 170
I'm
mark.
banking on the 3-year-old. He still has to show me what he's going to do. He still has a chance, where I feel like Wampy's already laid his cards out.
What about Ralph?
Ralph?
I would agree with you most of the time.
Ralph
except
threw
for Ralph.
pretty
Ralph
much every
threw
year. But
no.
But he didn't grow. But he never like stopped.
Oh, dude, he hardly did anything. That's what's so amazing about him.
I don't know.
We'd have to show you guys pictures of this deer. We don't know his age because he died, obviously.
Right.
And he was on this farm from the time that we got permission of it on it. But we believe that he had to have been, we had 5 years of history with him. So he had to have been like
7 or 8 at least.
Yes. And at 4, he was a 170-inch deer. We believe he was a 4. And we know he was a 170-inch deer because I found one of his sheds. 5, he was within 3 to 4 inches of himself. Really, really close. 6, he threw on
Flyer.
No, he had just G5s.
The stickers. I mean, the
no,
extra
no
points.
kickers yet, just G5s. Yep, and it was pretty much the same thing. 7 explodes. Just throws on 20-some inches. Has a split G3, kicker off the G2 on the left, 9 to 10-inch kicker off the G2 on the right, split eye guards on both sides, and G5s.
Maybe he was 6.
Maybe he was 6. But the point is
but that would have made him. Hold on, that would have made him a 170-inch 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Because we picked up one of the sheds from that year, and it was 76 inches. And
I'm just going off of the
shed that you first picked up came from the same year that Wesley almost shot him.
I'm solely going off the fact that we are on average a year old on our guesses across the board, if not 2.
No, I don't think that we're. I think we might be a year off, but
consistently.
I don't know.
We're getting a little better, but this year, yeah, we were bad.
Or the
BG we had right. But I mean, so Ralph though.
What was BG at 2? 150?
No, like 130.
Yeah, which we have pictures of Ralph that first year, and he was probably 130. He was like a 9.
I don't remember that. I remember the first time that I was like, oh, that's the same deer, was when I told Josh that he could take his kid up there and shoot the deer.
I could show you the pictures. You'd recognize him.
Okay, so going on.
All right. So
anyways,
I want to get back to what we're talking about, management, and so I think we're right in the ballpark with the average person out there managing, as far as we feel like we have been managing deer for a few years, trying to the best we can by passing some of them, by shooting does, by enhancing the food that's in the area to try to help them, by feeding minerals and food at the right time of year. But what is that age that you should be targeting? And the age that we have picked is 5. We felt like 5 is when our deer would peak.
And I
5 and 6.
Still argue that I think you should wait longer.
I can't argue that, Easton. I agree with you that 6 could be the year you want to get them to. The problem with that is we're already only getting about less than 5% of our deer make it to 5. So if you go to 6, you're looking at like 1% of the chance of a deer that you see at 2.
And right there, you need to identify the fact that you probably aren't going to be able to manage the way you're wanting to manage in the situation that you have.
Correct.
Because if you look at the same farm that we're talking about, this deer called Wampy on, in all reality, that farm, since we have been there or been hunting it, has gone massively downhill. It has never produced what we walked into it as, being unmanaged.
Well,
so you
hold on. That makes it sound like, hold on. I don't
else.
want someone to think that we have killed them off and we haven't left for something to come back. Because if you go back to when we first started hunting it, that it wasn't there either. Meaning they weren't there yet. We were in the growing stage. They weren't in the. No. They were in the, like, Bullwinkle was 150. Ralph was 150. The deer that showed up was huge.
I remember the one big. Yeah, that was the only one I remember.
So what would be the change from then that we, besides the fact that you got set up on a platter pretty much, that when we found it, there was already some up and comers.
That's what I
ready
think.
to roll. And then what switched 3-4 years in that we did, or something happened that now it is few and far between to have multiple up and comers.
Well, one of the things is.
One is pressure, hunting pressure around it.
I think we were careful about what we were shooting.
Yeah, I think there's only two things. One, the up-and-comers are always still there.
Yeah.
M&M. They're always there. But before, so I think it's the only two things that have changed on that place is the amount of pressure around it and the amount of young deer making it, and then the amount of deer in general.
Yeah, the
Unless we just
population has
didn't know
exploded since when we got
where we needed to be setting up at the beginning, and the deer were there the whole time, and we just didn't know it. There's a large increase in overall numbers of deer now. However, when that place was at its peak, when it was most incredible, you had KB, Cage, M2,
Inline Tine,
and there was another
Chunky
one.
Monkey.
But those four all made it. You had 3 Toro.
That was
You
weird.
had 5. Yeah, it was 5 studs. Toro didn't end up becoming that much of a stud, but he was still a good deer. So you had 5 studs.
He's a perfect example of one that because I was coming to full draw when you told me not to shoot him.
Yeah, but 5 studs at 3 years old, and they all made it. Every single one of them. And KB turned into a booner. Cage turned into a booner. Toro turned into he was a freaking nice deer to 99%
so low
of us.
150s.
No,
But he was an 8,
Okay, that's better.
he wasn't 150.
and he had a huge frame.
So you need to
140
throw him
maybe.
out that he didn't
M2.
make it.
I was going to shoot him.
No, I'm saying in this scenario here.
M2 turned into a booner. Cage was a
Tank.
tanker. And then you had
Almost
Ralph
shot him too.
and Bullwinkle on it at the same time, who were mature deer. So you had 2 mature booners and 3 immature booners.
He wasn't
Dor
even close.
wasn't a booner, but he was a good deer. But he was on there too at the same time. So just the survival rate, and then there is a lot more deer now, in general. I mean, like just a lot of deer.
Right. Okay, but so for argument's sake, do we age? 5 years old, your deer should be close. I agree with Easton. I think the true max is 6. But most people can't let them get to that age unless you have a big enough farm that you know your deer are surviving.
I think absolute ideal conditions, 6 years old. I think realistic conditions, 4.
4. I would agree.
And the reason I'm saying that is because, and I think you're the one that said this first. I can't remember if you said it was from a study or something, but we don't see a very big jump from 4 to 5. And this is where we do disagree with like 98% of the industry. They all see this big jump at 4 to 5. And of all those people, almost none of them get their deer aged with cementum annuli, which is by their teeth. And so we think that is what's going on is
They're off a year.
they're off a year or we're off a year. I think they are. We're going off of the most science-based information that we can, which is the teeth. And that would say that the big jump that these folks are seeing, that they're thinking is 4 to 5,
It's 3
is
to 4.
actually 3 to 4. Yes. And then what we're seeing is that at 4 to 5, they don't grow that much. And the reason being, they say, is at 4 is when they think they're doing the peak
Finishing up
amount
their
of breeding.
body. And they're finishing up their body growth.
Yeah, so they're finishing up their body growth, and they're doing the most amount of breeding, which makes it difficult for them to recover and grow their best rack. At 5 years old, they don't do as much because they wore themselves down so much. And then at 5, it's like they take a chill pill and they still breed, but they don't have to work so hard and not fighting.
And their skeletal form is fully formed. So now all of the bone structure can go to the head.
Yep. So then at 6,
They grow the
you
biggest.
get a good rack.
They should be the biggest rack.
Yep. And so it seems as though if it's not realistic for you to get them to 6, if we're going off of purely antler size, there's not a lot of benefit in.
Shoot them at 4.
Yeah.
I still stand by that. And I mean, because that is where we've seen our biggest deer.
I'll take the stand of I think that if unless you have the ability to genuinely manage your places or wherever it is, you've got enough land, you got enough people working together that are bordering you or whatever to genuinely see a difference in the size of deer, that who gives a crap about what age it is. If it is the right size or it is the right one you're looking for, shoot. Because in all reality, I think that I mean, unless you have tons and tons of people hunting that one spot, if there's just one or two of you or something, that you shoot the 4-year-old, one buck, oh man, yeah, you might have just wiped out a buck that had potential to go 170 or something. But big picture, you shot one deer out of thousands. So you're going to be all right. Wait till you see the one you're happy with, that you're good with, and stop trying to follow the train of passing deer on public places that get hammered. Or, I mean, unless you want to just take the risk and know that there's a very small chance that they make it, and when they do, you got their reward. But I just think it's a big persona around that you got to wait till they're a certain age, this, that, and the other. And the vast majority of people, including ourselves, really don't have the opportunity to genuinely correlate exactly what they're doing to size of deer. So you may as well just shoot.
And you jumped ahead. I mean, I have a question that fits right in where you're going, and because part of me doesn't disagree with you, but I want to go back to some of because what we are talking about is managing. And
we would all agree with, if it's your biggest deer ever or something like that, don't be passing him because he's 3.
And also it a lot of it factors into where you're hunting.
Yeah.
You know, whether like you just said, whether you have the opportunity. However, I do want to qualify one thing that we have learned since we moved to Iowa, and I don't believe that this is just Iowa. I believe this is an application that could go on anywhere, and that is when these deer get to, say, 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old, they learn how to live. They learn how to live through gun seasons. They learn how to live through harsh winters. They learn how to get across the highway and back. Like the Big 8. I mean, he was in the middle of some great big large groups at the time that would push those pieces of property right beside us. And that deer, along with Mitch's deer, figured out that there was an 80-acre piece in the middle of that we'll move in there and just stay there and never walk off of it. And like to the point where we were going over and see these guys, and they're there. I know they're there on those days, and yet I'm pulling cards, and there these 2 deer are in the food plot at 2:00 in the afternoon in broad daylight.
They were trying to get in the most central part of that
80s. It was crazy. I mean, I'm like worried to death. Yeah, he didn't make it. And then boom, the Big 8 would show up just like he always did around August something, and he'd be standing in front of my water trough. And that's where he always showed up first.
Hammer.
Yeah.
December, I hung a camera called Hammer Cam, and then it was so embarrassing because he was never on it. Then all of a sudden, December 29th, December 30th, December 31st, or November 29th, November 30th, November 31st, December 1, every night. And it was an hour after dark within 3 minutes of himself every night. That deer absolutely knew. He didn't know the date that shotgun season started. He didn't have the regs that year, but he knew it's coming. Yeah. And he moved when it was coming.
Yep. So I believe that they do. At some point, they can figure out to some extent how to. Now they'll still get whacked. Hammer eventually got killed, by a neighbor. But
and he was old though.
Yeah.
And that was late season. Yeah.
Yep. So my point is that there is some hope that they do get by if you are someone out there wanting to pass those deer and let them get older and see what's going to happen. Where a lot of times I believe when they're most vulnerable is 2 and 3 years old, because 3 meaning more here in Iowa. 2-year-old deer a lot of times in Iowa are not that big. Although I've seen, honestly, for people listening, I have seen deer. I can think of 2 or 3 of them that were probably in the 150 mark at as 2-year-olds. The 9 was one.
Yeah.
Because we found both sheds and he was 148. So he was right at
M2.
M2 is another one. There's a couple.
He had
others.
A lot of points, but still.
But so you can have a good deer. I mean, a deer that would be hard for anyone to pass. So, but what I guess I was going to get back to was, like you're talking about, shoot them at 4. One of the reasons, or at 3, I'll use BG for example. At 3 years old, we basically said, don't hunt there. Because we had a big deer. I mean, he would have been a deer that if he walked underneath you, it would have been really hard to not.
Oh God, yeah.
To not shoot him. He was just judging from the one antler we have, he would have been at the 172, 173 inch mark. But we were 90% sure he was only 3 because we had filmed him the year before at 20 yards. And it was definitely the same deer. No problem. I mean, no problem identifying him. And so we avoided to not put ourselves in that position to accidentally shoot, or it wouldn't have been an accident. It would have been that you would have shot him on purpose. But at the same time, if you really wanted to see what he could do, I do believe that 3 to 4 is that jump.
Yeah, but at the same time, that one is the biggest contradicting one we could possibly put out there.
How so?
Because he figured it out. He knew how to live. We knew that he was big. We knew that he had tons of potential, and we shot him at 4, when in all reality, we should have given him another 2 years.
Okay, but
is it contradicting when we tell everybody, if it's your biggest deer of your life, shoot it, no matter what age?
You said that. But
would you not agree?
I think it depends on your experience level. Like
Would you be
where you're at, I would have said that you wait for BG. Because if you watch him the next year, granted, I'm the same person that would have walked in there saying shoot him at 3, but I'm advocating I'm advocating for the fact that if you're trying to genuinely grow them to the biggest point possible, then you knew the deer freaking blew up, and you knew if you let that deer mature, there's a good chance he was over 200 at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Like
absolutely,
very easily in his situation. Like he would have had to put on less than 5 inches a year for the next 2 years to hit 200. Like
I don't think that's
the deer
the question.
had the
I think
freaking
the question
potential
is
to blow up even more.
him living.
But
That's my point. Is he did it he figured it out pretty quick. The fact that he was moving over there. Granted, he came over this year when you shot him pretty late in the season. Am I right?
Way late.
But until shotgun season, there isn't a whole lot of issue there. But I also don't know, was he all around there during shotgun season the year before?
No, he doesn't. He would disappear during shotgun season. He would usually show back up during late season because they had switched one of the agriculture fields to something that he could feed on.
So right there would tell you, though, that he has to have something figured out. If he completely disappears coincidentally during shotgun season, but he's alive, he just may not have ended up on our place during that time.
Here's where, I mean, one of the reasons why I was like, there's a deer when he gets to the size that we're talking, because BG ended up being just shy of 190.
He's 189 and 7/8.
Okay, so he gets I don't care who you are in Iowa, if you're a hunter, he gets your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that deer was going to draw some attention. Now, we're at 172 inches. He's a good deer, but he is not.
That's a big freaking deer still.
Yes, but he's not going to, like, everyone's
Get
not
people
going
doing stupid
yes.
stuff.
And so my point is that difference in that year and that farm that we're talking about, we have 25 acres of timber. We're not keeping him there all the time. He's spending a whole lot of time on other people's property. Not that they don't have every right to be able to get a shot at him too, but I think they would be looking for him way harder than they were any other time.
Yeah, just an odds game. Here's the thing that I'll tell you. The next 4-year-old that we have that's 189, if you guys don't try to shoot him, I'll pass him. I'm good with that. Now, if there's a 4-year-old that's 195,
shooting him.
I'm probably shooting him.
Okay, but hold on now,
and then
because I want to.
No, I would let you guys. I would let you guys go first. I'm saying in the event that you guys aren't trying to kill the deer, and for whatever reason nobody wants to shoot this deer that's 195, and he's 4.
So we're all dead at this
him.
point.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that when you said that, when you said you should shoot a deer, if it's your biggest deer, you should shoot it. I'm pretty sure you made me pass what would have been my biggest deer at the time. When I passed Cage, because I had every intentions of shooting Cage.
I know you did.
I think I had killed one booner. I had killed Splits.
But we think that figured Cage was within like 2 inches of Splits.
Yeah, but he could have been 2 inches bigger.
Yeah, but we got to have more of a gap than that.
No,
he also had a place where he had a 70 to 80% chance of survival.
Yeah, and we never.
What killed him, I don't know.
We did. I truly believe we killed that deer that day. Because we never got another picture of him or anything after he recognized us in that tree.
I don't think so.
We had no pictures. Never saw him again. He was gone. I think.
I'd have
I mean,
to go back and look at that.
oh, I know that because I kept looking for him.
Well, I don't know. I just can't remember that off the top of my head.
Right. So anyhow, it's okay for Warren to have you pass your biggest deer ever, but he's not going to pass. So
We'd have to double check that and see if I think you'd already killed 2 booners.
I don't
by
think
then.
so. I can't remember exactly what year that was and everything because the other one was the 12 at over that with Colby. That deer was over 170. The one that had the little tiny body, real tall rack, came to the rub tree, we didn't have a rub tree back then. We had the just the food plot, and he would come in there.
At your house?
No, at the 80.
Oh. You think he was 170?
Oh, yeah. When you saw him, I mean, go back and look at the footage of him when he comes out in that food plot with Mom and I that day. I mean, his G4s are like 8 inches long. You know, he had like 10, 8. He was.
Oh, I didn't realize he was that big.
He was.
That's, to me, now, if he was 195, I would maybe think about it. Meaning, I might consider passing him. If he's 198, he's getting it. It's got to be. Maybe we'll go 10-inch gaps.
You just said a 2 inches is not enough yet. You just did 3.
Right. Yeah.
No.
5.
Yeah, you just told me
5.
that he needed more than that.
195, I'd be thinking about passing him.
You're an idiot.
But 199.
So we all know
All right.
Warren clearly has no validation to this one. But anyways.
So I think so.
How? I'll pass up 4-year-old booners all day, every day.
So here's the question that arises from this, which you have already kind of answered, or you started down that, and that is, does managing deer take away from the hunt some?
It could, if you allow it. You don't have to let it do that.
Okay.
I think
I
it
believe.
can do the opposite. Add to it.
Talk about that. What do you mean?
I think it can do both, but add to it because you get if you hunted long enough or you are starting to hunt long enough, you've started accomplishing things. Like you've done it. Like you've killed the 90-inch deer in your area, or the Pope and Young deer that was the hard one to do, or you've shot a couple Pope and Youngs or something. At some point or another, typically when people get into hunting, it's a lifestyle type of thing. You get into it and you're doing it for a long time, if not the rest of your life. And you got to have something to drive you to want to either do better. Like, I'm not a stagnant person, so I always wanted, when I accomplish something, I'm looking for the next thing to accomplish. And so with that being said, I never managed or wanted to manage. You guys never made me pass nothing or anything. I just shot what I was happy with. I did that for 6 or 7 years. And then once I had done that enough, I had gotten lucky on a couple that were bigger than what I was even looking for and just happened to come by. Then I got to the point where I want to like intentionally find a specific type of deer or caliber and try to go at that. And I even went backwards to start moving back up and started doing that and started progressively getting bigger, trying to hunt the caliber of deer I was looking for. In turn, more times than not, that you're almost managing as you go anyways, because you're looking for this deer. That means you're passing all these others. Now, granted, if you're on your side, you think that you should be shooting some of those ones that may not be to the same caliber. But my point is that to me it adds, because now I have a new goal. I might want to hunt this same place and see if I can let that deer go for the next 2 or 3 years and see if he can grow into something big or not. And so I think that it really adds, it gives you the ability to add as much potential and as much challenge as you could possibly fathom when it comes to hunting. It's endless versus just going to hunt or something, shooting whatever, which is great if you're happy with it. But you'll run into a cap at some point where it's just not giving you that drive nearly as much. And so I think it's a good thing because it turns you into something that you got to drive for it. You got to keep learning to be able to accomplish certain things.
I agree. I mean, I have my own theory on all that, but you can go.
Oh, I think this is 100% becomes a personal question. As far as what do you want? What are you trying to get out of hunting? I would say that for a lot of people, I know a lot of people that have a problem They don't have a drug problem. They don't have a drinking problem, but they have a legit
Deer problem.
stress problem over deer. Yeah, and I'm not even, I know it sounds funny, but I'm not even kidding. Like, I know people, and you've gotten a lot better. You used to be one that, like, legit are getting sick to their stomach over these deer. And then the problem with it is they're sick to their stomach over these deer for years because oh my God, he's a huge 3-year-old. And now they're trying to keep track of him and make sure that he lives till 6. And they're nervous about him like they're more nervous about this deer than they are their own kids. Every day. That takes away from it, in my opinion. I have seen people where I'm legitimately concerned for their health over the deer. So in my opinion, at that point, yeah, it's like, dude, you got to chill a little bit.
I mean,
what's your opinion on it, though? Not everybody else's.
I think that there's certain circumstances where, one, I think that there's my personal opinion that if it adds to it or that it could take away.
That's the whole point of this.
I don't allow it to take away from me. Meaning, like, if there was some, I've been fortunate that I've killed enough deer that it's not hard for me to pass a 160-inch 4-year-old or something like that. And I think it's really cool to get to see them.
So what is it, though? Does it add or take away? Crickets, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think it does
Stumped
either.
Warren. That's pretty impressive. You don't think it does either? I think it does.
Because I can make it do whatever I want.
Yeah,
I can either, if it would take away if it didn't allow me to do something that I wanted to do, which in this instance would be shooting a certain deer. But I don't want to shoot that deer usually. Okay. Or if I did want to, I'm shooting him.
Simplify it then. Holy cow, this is not that difficult of a question, but simplify it. Okay, you either can hunt a piece of land that you have to manage it completely, like you're passing young bucks to let them grow, whether you want to or not, whether they're big enough or not, or whether they're the biggest at 3, you have to pass them. You got to wait to the 5-6 caliber.
5 or 6. You got to define
6.
age for me. 6.
Okay. No, we'll do right now because we don't do that. So 5. So 5 years old. Or you can go hunt a place that you're not allowed to manage at all. You can simply hunt it. That means that whatever comes by, you're shooting, you're doing whatever, hunting however you want. But you're not allowed to manage it, is my point. Which one are you picking?
Probably the managed one.
So
it adds for you. It gives you more.
At the stage I'm at now, yeah.
And that right there is the key, in my opinion. Because, so, are you done? I'm
done.
So, when we were building Raised Hunting, I can't remember what episode I used it in, but I did some research on the levels of hunting. And there's a formula that they've developed that says that, first thing you want to do is kill something. You want to be successful. The second thing is you want to do that more and more often. You want to do that as much as you can. Man, I want to hunt a deer. I want to hunt a squirrel. I want to hunt a rabbit. I want a turkey. And then quality becomes okay. And that's what you were just talking about is you kind of evolve. And I wonder when this person wrote it, because this would have been probably 6-7 years ago as I'm reading this, and I'm in where you're talking about that I was we're managing deer now, and I'm trying to kill. I don't care anything about quantity anymore. I want to keep setting the bar higher and higher, and bigger or older was the goal. And so that's where, but then they talk about, then it becomes, you don't care about killing anything at all. You really care about passing it on to someone else. And I just think that I've been super fortunate. God has blessed me in a way like I can't even imagine that I've been able to do that with you guys, with all the kids that we deal with camp, with all the people we've reached through Raised Hunting, that I've been able to share it and do that. But I would tell you that it has now where I think it definitely added to the hunt, because I learned so much more by managing deer, by passing deer, because I was now getting to see them do things that we've learned about straight up. We learned about gypsy. We've learned about all these deer and what they're doing because of the man. If we were just shooting, we probably would have killed them. Go ahead.
So should we reframe this? And it's not manage deer, it's setting different standards.
Maybe so.
Because that's really, I think, what we're saying is that we're not really honestly talking about managing deer. We're more talking about setting different standards for ourselves based on where we're at in our hunting lifestyle.
Sure. I mean, I just think that this is
it's just a term it gets referred to.
I mean, when someone if someone walks up and they say, "Oh, you guys own some ground," they don't know who you are or whatever, but you're a deer hunter. Oh, you bow hunt, okay, and you live in Iowa. You guys manage your deer. You're knowing what they're talking about. Are you guys letting some deer walk?
I'm just saying that, but really, when we're breaking down, we're talking about setting different standards,
right,
for ourselves.
But I will say that. So as much as I feel like it has enhanced and made me a better hunter, and I'm more than happy that I have been doing it and been a part of it and seen what I've seen. Because like I said, it's probably been the number one learning tool that I've ever experienced with my whitetail career. I've learned more by being able to let some deer walk and things like that than I did in all the other places I've hunted. Not that I wasn't learning things there too, but now I would tell you that I'm at a point in my life where I think that I can honestly say it also took away. And the reason I say that it took away is it took away from the fact that I can remember sitting in a tree stand, man, and you'd hear leaves crunching and something was coming. And I'm talking like freaking heart pounding out of your chest. You don't even see it. It could be a doe or a buck or whatever. And when you saw antlers, holy crap. This was like the coolest freaking thing ever. And because I remember making the same mistake that 90% of the people that you track for and I track for. I shoot a deer and he runs away and I go get my buddy and I'm telling him, man, this freaking thing is huge. I mean, I just shot a giant deer. We get over there and it was a 115-inch deer. In my eyes, I saw a 175-inch deer because I was so excited about what was going on. And when you get to managing like we have and knowing the deer, I felt like without recognizing it, I knew who was coming. Oh, yep, look through my binoculars. That's straight up. Oh, no, that's quad. That's, gypsy. That's Ralph, whatever. Which you have to do because you have to be able to make a decision. Are you shooting or not? A lot of times, like you're talking about, if you didn't know them, they're in a 170-inch deer walks by that you don't know that he's 3, you're possibly going to shoot him.
I think I'll say it would. You're not going to be looking at like, I think he might be 3. You're just going to, that's a freaking giant.
Right. And so I think there's something to be said where I can see me going back to that point where I will be like, oh, good deer, I'm shooting.
Do you think you'd have to get rid of cameras to do that?
I don't know about get rid of them, but definitely not rely on them as much or not look through them as much as far as seeing like who all is there.
That's because if you know that they're
there,
then who is there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I did last year.
That would be fun.
Unintentionally. Well, I mean, not intentionally. I was hunting specific deer, but I was also like,
you
whatever shows up is like of a certain caliber is what we're rolling with, and I ended up shooting a deer we'd never seen before, or never seen on the hoof at least, or I hadn't. So,
yeah.
So anyhow, that's just my take. I don't know, and I think you guys are, and I've said this before, you guys are going through the steps way earlier than I did because you guys got started way earlier than I did. Meaning you guys were already killing stuff with a bow and arrow at 10 years old. I didn't even pick one up till I was 18.
I think it starts becoming geographical too.
Yeah,
because it definitely helps where we're at.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking like, but now, like I really want to kill a big mule deer.
Yeah.
And then I'm about ready for another big elk.
Yeah, but that's because you've accomplished some of the ones that you've done here.
That's what I'm saying. It just starts alternate.
You're just picking what you don't have.
Yes, because you want to experience
genuine human nature is all that is.
Which
and not in a bad way.
So with that being said, I won't give it away, but I think that's great. With next week, we got a guest coming that is going to answer some of those questions about that next step. and possibly going somewhere. Hold on, before you guys go to that, are we going to do a what would you do?
I figured you guys would. Why?
I was just going to turn them on.
Oh, just
search.
to get ready.
Yeah.
Well, I think we stick with the theme of what we're talking about today, because I think this happens a lot. And I think that I know what our answer will be, but maybe we should bring it up so that someone can consciously catch themselves before they do it. And the what would you do that I remember that we posted on Facebook many years ago, I described it as a deer laying in the back of a pickup truck, and there was just a normal buck. And you come out of the convenience store, walk over because there's a group of people looking at this deer, and in the back of the truck is a nice racked small deer. And so few people looking at it.
Nice rack, small body is what you're saying.
Small body deer. Right. And I don't know whether to pose this as you walk up, but what I did there was a gentleman walks up that's also a hunter, and he walks up and he says, "Oh, that's nice 2 or 3 year old, looks like someone killed," and then starts to walk away. Well, when you look over, there's a kid that killed this deer. He's there with his grandfather. And the kid is looking at his grandfather like, what the heck does that mean? What did we just do to that kid? So what would you do if you were a bystander in that and you heard that comment from that guy? What would you do?
Call him out. I'd ask him what. I'd probably say, "What's your issue with the 2 to 3 year old?" And then he'd probably give me some answer, or whatever, and then I'd say, "Okay, see this little kid right here? That is the one standing behind it. You're gonna tell me that he shouldn't be shooting that deer just because it's 2 or 3 years old, so that you can benefit off a bigger rack? That's what you're gonna put this kid down that is literally growing up in something that we all share, and you're gonna tell me that it's crappy, or you're gonna give us some snarky comment that he shot a 2 to 3 year old deer. Heck, it could add spots on it for all it matters. Like, the kid is getting into this, and for you to put him down as an adult is embarrassing as an adult, number one. And number two, you shouldn't have stopped in the first place. If you got nothing to say about this, especially when you don't know the situation, get out. You have no reason to be talking over here." And then I'd turn around to the kid and say, "You killed a freaking stud, and you should be more proud of this than any of the deer that guy's killed."
Yeah,
I
mean,
in front of him. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I believe that and like I said, I kind of figured that we would roughly be on the same page, but it just amazes me that there's people out there still making those kinds of comments, and where you see it the most is on social media.
I was going to say, go look at our social right now. I don't even read comments because we put ourselves out there, so that's on us. But at the same time, a lot of the videos and stuff we post is educational or a tip from here or there. They're tips from literally things we've experienced or done. And I probably get it the most probably because I'm so young. But if I go on there and do any tip video or anything, it is so many comments of snarky comments about not knowing what you're doing or wasting their time or this, that, and the other.
Or everybody knows
what?
that.
Yeah, for what? Like, what does that affect, or what is that benefiting, number one? And number two, what about the people that are watching that actually could use it? Why do we have to put on this front of everybody knows everything when it comes to hunting, when literally everybody knows nothing when it comes to hunting, because nobody knows it all?
Agreed. And I'll throw myself under the bus, because you can't throw yourself any farther under the bus than what I'm about to do, because I am that kid. Only I wasn't with my grandfather. I was by myself. I'm hunting in Virginia. I've started bow hunting for the first time. I'm 16 years old, or 17. I think I was 16. And I go to hunt Quantico Marine Base, where you had to, and so you had to check in. And so I checked in, and then you got to check out. You got to get out of there. Well, I go in there. As I'm walking to my stand, I see a deer walking through the trees. I draw back and I shoot this deer. I mean, it's just a deer, right? I've never killed a deer with my bow. I mean, I've only been hunting with a bow for like a year. And I get a shot at this deer, and I walk over there, and I got it. I mean, I'm like, I got a deer. I'm like super stoked about this. I'm a 16-year-old kid. I did it all by myself. I was not there with anyone. I load the deer in the truck. I drive to the checking station. I get to the checking station, and there's 2 or 3 guys there, and they hear me say, "I have a deer I have to check." And they're like, you killed one with a bow? And I was like, yeah. And so they come outside, and the one guy comes out, and he's like, he got one. Look at that shot, man. I mean, he's like pumped for me. He was like super excited. And this other guy picks up the deer because it was a small deer. And when I tell you, I'm going to give you the weight because it was really small. I had field dressed the deer. And field dressed, the deer weighed 24 pounds.
24?
24 pounds. Was not a fawn. I mean, it was a fawn, but it did not have spots or anything like that. This is in the fall. I don't know that. This guy makes the comment, I caught a striped bass bigger than this deer. And I thought the other guy was going to kill him. Because he's like, dude, the kid just killed his first deer. And then they kind of walked away like I couldn't even hear what they were saying. I didn't care. He couldn't shake me at that time. I mean, I was super stoked about what was going on. But my point is that I was hunting. I was doing it by myself. And that deer is what solidified me as a bow hunter from then until now. And it's been 40 years. And it still is a driving passion. But that is also why we're having a what would you do conversation like that. And what would I do was I would never put myself in a position like what that guy did that day. And if that guy's listening out there and he hears this, he'll know who he was because he knew what he'd done. He knew what he had done because the other guy made sure he corrected it.
I like that other guy.
Yeah.
So if you worked at this mile marker check station in Virginia.
No, it wasn't a mile marker. It was at
Quantico.
Quantico Marine Base. And, I mean, it was only one spot. You go there and turn in your tag and
They
take
very
off.
well may be passed on by now.
Maybe. I don't, yeah.
Jeez.
Well,
Like
40 years ago, and they were probably 40.
Yeah. Probably be 80.
All right. Morning.
Hold on, I gotta find where it was. Here.
Holy cow.
What have you been doing this whole freaking
Gave
time?
plenty of time.
Okay, so I had to go back to the
Poop.
how the frick do you know?
Because that's what
You're
always
looking at my
default.
screen.
No, you default to poop.
Because people love it. Baby beetles protect themselves with their poo. To ward off predators, potato beetles and other beetle larvae get to work as soon as they hatch, covering themselves with a thick layer of poop. It's called a fecal shield. Can you imagine that as a superhero? After eating a nightshade leaves, the larvae produce toxic feces that they pile up on their backs.
Feces.
They carry it around, presenting a messy, distasteful, and toxic deterrent to would-be predators.
Shit, I think Warren might be that.
What? Don't you do that little red button, man.
That's
Well, we both knew
No.
what that was before you said it.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that it's not wacky.
It's the whole thing is you're trying to
The
find
whole
wacky
point
facts
is
that
wacky.
people don't know.
No, you determine that.
Little
It's
button
not what
man
the
determined
democracy
it, too.
says. Well, nobody cares what little button man says. That's why he's got a little piece of North Korea.
That's great. Nick liked that one.
You got another one?
0% on the day.
Now you're afraid
I
to say
can't remember
anything?
if I've said this one though, because it was.
I'm telling you right now, if you have, it's a 0.
It's a double.
Did I say this one? Skipper caterpillars can shoot poop pellets 1.5 meters through the air.
Yes.
You have.
Yeah.
That one's so good though.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
What do you when you're looking for wacky
No.
facts? Do you just put in wacky facts about poop?
This one I put in wacky facts about animal poop because the human ones weren't that interesting. Did you know the ideal turd is supposed to sink?
Yeah.
You did not know that.
Yeah, I did.
Did you know that the average bowel movement takes 12 seconds?
That I did not know.
Yeah, you're way off of that.
So are you.
No.
Yeah. Neither of
I'm
us
good.
can.
So all you people out there that need a book, you don't need it.
Or a magazine.
Shouldn't read something in 12 seconds. But you also know, and I know this because I'm older and I've had issues where they had to take out part of my colon that you're not supposed to strain. So those of you guys out there going, ugh.
Sometimes
That's
you
a bad
got to
thing.
give it a little extra.
No, you don't. You're not supposed to do that at all. Bad for you. All right. Are we done?
Yep.
I think we answered a lot of questions. We raised a lot of questions. And like I said, without giving away next week's, I think we got a pretty cool podcast coming. We got a visitor coming to see us. So, all right, guys.
Reviews, please.
Yeah, send reviews. Don't forget, raisedhunting.com is where you can find scents and knocks. And because the whippets are on there too, right?
Yep.
Pre-order.
Yeah, pre-order only for the Whippets. If you haven't seen them, they're pretty freaking slick. If you've ever wanted a toolless, 100% toolless lighted knock, whip it on, whip it off, and they're sick. So anyhow, you can find that. Also, Raised Canine stuff is on there as well. So check out raisedhunting.com. Other than that, peace out, folks. We'll see you next week.
Raisedhunting.com.